Cobra's new 2025 ADAPT DS driver range has hit the internet. However, I have a few questions on the new lineup that you should probably be aware of. But excitingly, when a new driver is about to be released, all the older models seem to get that much cheaper. Something feels very different about the Cobra section in Replay Golf compared to last year. But whilst looking through the shelves, researching online, and obviously testing these 5 models of drivers side by side, is Cobra entering a new chapter when it comes to driver development? But the same can't be said for all of these in my hand. And thanks again to Replay Golf for obviously letting me take all of these 9-degree Cobra drivers, which I'm going to put this standard length Tour X hazardous shaft in all of them. And apart from the speed zone, that's 10.5 degrees loft, I want a fair test between the last 4 models that Cobra's released. And I want to show you proof that this is a new chapter, as I've always talked about Cobra being great value in the second-hand market because there's always tons of supply and not that much demand. For example, these Cobra speed zone irons, great for a beginner on flyer, 220 full set, great condition. If that potentially had another badge on the back of it, I feel like they would be more expensive for the year that they came out. First thing to note on Cobra's new driver lineup that we're seeing here is 4 different heads looking to compete in that potential forgiveness rat race that so many other manufacturers entered last year with their 10K series. Because as I walked through Replay Golf and looked at their shelves, number 1, a lot less dark speeds than the Aerojets or LTDXs that I've seen from previous years. And number 2, there wasn't a single X on the shelf. There was a couple of Maxes, which is the draw bias, and actually 6 or 7 or so of these LS dark speeds, which by the way, 4 of them are brand new, so you can imagine that's just pro shop stock. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. When it comes to supply and demand on eBay, that for me is the litmus test of a piece of equipment, A, being bought in the first place, so there isn't tons of it on the shelves up and down the country. And number 2, they're not going onto the second-hand market because people have bought it, loved it, and kept it. Whereas the others didn't quite have the same kind of fortune, which is obviously good news for you guys. Which to me proves the good old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because we almost have to go back to the F-Series Cobra brought out to see a continuation of a particular theme or appearance of a driver. And whether it was pre-planned or not, in my eyes, it's a very good decision that they've made. Because who would have thought making a blacked out, badass looking driver obviously appeals to the golfing community. And I'll show you some price points that the dark speed's going for here on the right hand side, averaging out, let's say, to about 250 to 260, maybe a tiny bit higher if it's in good condition. God, this thing does sound good, to be fair. However, nowhere near the other drivers which essentially were given away. And hopefully, as I hit a few more drives with them, I'll prove that it wasn't performance. I appreciate that's not a massive data pool, but to be perfectly honest, I can't hit it any better or further than that in terms of the numbers. So let's whack the other heads in and see what we get. Now let's start at the bottom of the pile, and I know some of you have got a burning question that I probably have left out. However, 159 for this driver, considering Replay offers warranty and you can go and try it for a couple of weeks, bring it back, no questions asked. Which goes to show the starting point of where we're at, because yes, I know a lot of you are going, Simon, where's the F9 speedback before that? I feel I have to have a cut-off, and to be honest, the speedback in great condition is going to be worth more than a lot of these drivers I have here because of hype. However, if I was to get F9 speedback, I'd get the white version. It was a lot rarer, probably about a fifth of the quantity of speedback drivers that came out, and that's kind of what I see it as. Bit overpriced, bit overhyped because it was so culturally relevant at that time. But in terms of performance and value, I feel like these ones are going to provide that better. I've got the 9-degree in the speed zone, but I kind of want this for a different type of player altogether. Because when I think about a beginner wanting a good-looking driver, a reliable driver, something that you could probably not scuff, destroy, have a very good shaft in the end of it, sounds great, can't ever really look past this thing. And don't ever think that this is so much shorter than the dark speed. It's only because at my speed it's spun more with a 10.5-degree head, just a standard stiff flex shaft. But if I want to hit something straight, if I want to be confident, I like backspin. It reduces curvature. This thing is virtually brand new, like it's never been touched. And this was the last installment of the Infinity phase. And to be perfectly honest, it's one of the things that I think made Cobra stand out. I love the Infinity phase. Because far too often, golfers that start this game will sky the driver. They'll come down too much, they'll tee the ball too high, and that means the ball goes 100 foot in the air, but only 40 yards forward. And this game is psychological. You don't want to sky the new driver, even if it's secondhand and in good condition, just like this one. Therefore, it was harder to wear. And for me, that was one of the best inventions that I'd seen over the last decade. However, this driver didn't necessarily get the best rap when it first came out. The color is definitely particular. And it sounds very different from the other ones. However, we have to look at performance off the face, off the toe, off the heel. Hopefully you're starting to see how important loft and shaft combination is versus technology. But this game's psychological, sound, feel, looks. That's it. Drivers nowadays are a beauty contest. I'm very sure about that, and no wonder the dart speed has done really well in the second-hand market, and I presume the retail market, because let's be brutally honest here, which one is going to appeal to the vast majority of the golf community? That being said, the Rad Speed goes into last place. I don't feel like it did anything more than the Speed Zone, and the Speed Zone sounded better, looked better, and sadly, because drivers are so close to each other year on year, what else can I judge it on? This was the year Cobra had to bring out something good, something that wasn't quite out there, felt good, sound good. And to be perfectly honest, the LTD-X, whether it was the LS, the Max, whatever it was, did just that. If they had done it with an Infinity face, I would have been even more ecstatic over it. And as you can tell in terms of performance, obviously we're seeing something very similar. Because for me, it seems hysterical over the years of Cobra. It's almost like we've got less advanced. We used to have a full CNC face on the Speed Zone, Infinity Crown, and nowadays we don't even have CNC anything on the Dark Speed. Looking at them side by side as well, I mean, they're incredibly similar. However, this driver's 3 years old. Barely. As I proved with that shot right there, can keep up with some of the newest stuff in our game. And between all of these drivers on eBay or even secondhand marketplaces, when it's more peer-to-peer, I'm not being funny, it's like there's a tenner between all of them. Nearly got the 350 out of it. Tell you what, my hook draws today are virtually on point. However, let's cover our last driver, and I want to talk a bit about the data when it obviously comes to hitting your ball slightly further. I wasn't surprised that this was half of its original value by the end of the year. And I have no idea where Aerojet came from. For me, it was a bit cringy. You think of all the other Cobra drivers, speed, speed back, speed zone, rad speed, you name it. Now we're back into dark speed, and we're going to be in more dark speed territory as well. I'll tell you what, that's the first bad drive I've hit all day. This Aerojet is horrendous. 115-yard miss is not what you want. That's a lot better. Well, it's a good job this driver's forgiving, because that was very much out the hill. As I'm evidently proving here, Cobra's made great pieces of equipment for a very long time. Unfortunately, for people that watch my channel and obviously in the know, they don't do well in the second-hand market. And as I'm very much proving here, technique makes a huge difference. However, if we ignore my shank and my heel shot with the Aerojet there, I mean, tell those all apart. At my speed and my launch, that is all down to strike and whether the club face was pointing somewhat towards the target. But I can almost guarantee if I did 20 shots each with the same loft and shaft combination, 5 days in a row, would I see much difference in here? Probably not. If I had to rank these drivers, this is in a category of its own. I think it's a great beginner driver for the reasons I stated earlier. Last place has to be the Rad Speed, not because of performance, as I've proved there, but because of sound. Up next, I have to say the Dart Speed. Don't get me wrong, it feels great. Biggest measuring device for picking number one is value for money. And as I've stated, this has held its price well, which I'm ecstatic for the people that got club fitted for it. And I want to see that more, because if it retains its value secondhand, then you guys get to keep more of your money as well, if you were to buy it secondhand. Second place has to be the Aerojet. I loved it in that 2023 video because it was so much cheaper than all the other drivers secondhand. And at that time of filming that video, I almost could overlook the appearance of the driver and the way it kind of didn't make much sense in terms of branding. But considering this is going to be somewhat a bit cheaper, I like the CNC milled phase. I think it looks great. And the fact that it performs and sounds just as good as the other two, I have to say at value for money against the last 5 years worth of Cobra drivers, I can't really look past this thing. Guys, if you've got any questions on your golf bag or golf game, sasgolfacademy.com. Catch you guys later.